Chapter 5, Terraformation. The centerpiece of the room they had arrived at was a giant mirror that didn't have a single scratch on it. This room was around the middle section of the tower and the windows in all the cardinal directions. These windows appeared to be strategically placed for some reason. Xiao walked towards the middle of the room, stepping on the mirror. She encouraged everyone else in the room to follow her. A woman was accompanying Xiao, someone that Mickey and Yuki recognized right away. Maldove, Ika's mother, and Xiao's secretary. The group that was taken to that room was composed of a dozen of other Terramagi. Window. The light passing through the window is distorted. A spell, perhaps? Maybe it's a shield that electrocutes you if you try to escape the exam. I'll just pretend it has to do with the teleporting room. Bottom mirror. Don't worry about the mirror under your feet. It won't get damaged even if you tried. I hope you cleaned your shoes though. Even if she says that, it feels wrong to step on it. I need you to stand still in order to make this process easier. Even if mirrors have great conductivity for reality bending spells, every day that passes through, it gets harder for Grandma's Xiao. Last week she got stuck in a position after her morning stretches. I don't think they needed to hear about that. Yuki Haru didn't have fond memories of Maldove, as she used to work as a substitute teacher at the academy every now and then. She would be really carefree about giving detentions to anyone causing even the slightest bit of trouble during her class. Welcome to your third initiation exam. We have rescheduled it because of some external reasons, so we do apologize for that, Maldove said. There was silence after those words. Nobody in the group was going to challenge Xiao on the change of date. Mickey noticed that most of the Terramagi in training had just woken up. They probably had been practicing all night. They're all younger than us, Yuki said to Mickey. Probably around the age we graduated from our academy. If this exam is anything like the others we had back at the academy, it shouldn't be a problem, Yuki said. Achieving a good score in this test will be crucial to get your final approvals. This is, after all, the last test you'll need to complete, Xiao said. A field exam is what we decided for all of you, so be careful out there. Maldove will accompany you and will answer all of your questions. Good luck, Xiao said. The mirror on the floor began to rattle as soon as Xiao stopped talking. Without any kind of warning, the group was suddenly transported outside of Foxtrot. They found themselves in a grey, inhospitable plain with a thick layer of ash covering it. Mickey and Yuki felt their feet grow heavy almost immediately, with the ash reaching all the way up to their thighs and knees respectively. They had visited a place similar to this near the academy, the Sea of Ash that this country was known for. All of the cities were surrounded by these plains where no life could flourish. Mickey grabbed Yuki's hand tightly. The sight was far from pretty, and the wind that blew was scalding. This was much worse than the plains where they used to practice. Breathing the air felt suffocating. Sea of Ash. The air is full of ash. For a second I thought I'd suffocate. Even less dangerous zones are quite scary. I must be careful. I don't want to get a nosebleed right now. Mickey was eager to start. She started fidgeting in place, causing the ash to move deeper inside of her shoes. Maldove walked close to the group of students. The third exam consists of terraforming, an area within the Sea of Ash. This zone was inhabited before the fire rain. It was referred to as the slums of Foxtrot, and was scarcely inhabited. Be it with some exceptions, you can use any of the terraforming methods that you have learnt, Maldove explained. Every rule that comes with their use applies, so be careful. I'll take note of everything, so try to make the least amount of mistakes as possible, Maldove explained. And don't even try to hide anything from me. I do see everything, the woman continued. At that moment, her sclera and irises turned black. You have 2 hours to complete your assignment. Xiao is currently watching through me, so do your best, Maldove said, finally giving the group a smile. It's time, Mickey murmured. Yuki nodded firmly. Miki took out 2 pairs of gloves from her pouch and handed one to Yuki. After pulling their feet out of the ash, they began moving far away from the group. Maldov watched them leave, surprised by their commitment. Once they were far enough away from the group, they got to work. Yuki put on a pair of gloves that Miki gave him. He squatted and began to dig through the ash of the area they had selected with his hands. Upon seeing the condition of the area they had chosen, Miki sighed. There's so much ash, a lot more than around the academy. It's so thick that might cause a lot of trouble. The time limit might be a problem. After several minutes, Yuki managed to push through enough ash out of the way to reveal the naked rock under it. I wasn't sure if we were walking on rock. I just wanted to confirm it. We'll have to do a jump. A normal terraformation method isn't doable, but we're here to show what we do best, Yuki said with a confident smile. He stood up and patted his trousers to get rid of some of the ash that almost completely covered his clothes. Miki nodded. I was hoping we could practice before doing it again, but I agree. Let's do it, Miki said. Yuki stepped onto the naked rock and offered his hands to Miki. I'm ready, Miki said as soon as she made sure she wouldn't lose her footing. They held hands together while facing each other. They remained silent for a few moments. A white, glowing circle appeared under their feet, surrounding both of them. Yuki kept his eyes closed as he focused his energy into charging the magical spell. Wanderlust, Yuki said with his voice echoed through the ash plains. Their consciousness traveled through the circle under their feet, the world around them spinning, simply warped out of existence, and was replaced by a black void. Only Miki and Yuki existed within it. The sound of a watermill wheel and hubbub of kids playing, and the wind whispering through the grass blades assaulted the ears of Miki and Yuki all at once. After reopening their eyes, they found themselves in the old Foxtrot. The mountain range that separated the areas from Foxtrot could be seen in the distance. There were animals running around everywhere, all types of plants that Miki and Yuki had never seen before. They could hear the soft melody from a guitar. In the distance, they spotted a market, and closer to them, several houses. It reminded them of Magmatrine. There were many people around the area. Most of them appeared to be commoners, contrary to what Maldov explained. Slums wouldn't be the word to describe this place. It was more akin to a small village. The life in this place of land was peaceful. They couldn't tell how far back they were peeking into the past. Miki opened her eyes wide. The sea of ash that they had seen moments ago was now so full of life. It left Miki speechless right away. She stared at the sky. It's so healthy. The color was so bright compared to theirs. Watermill. I hadn't seen a watermill in so long. We had one near the temple in which we grew up. I grew up. It's beautiful. Did you ever bathe in the river? I would have loved to, but the river leeches had other plans. All my river-related plans have been cancelled. Even with how thick the mist is, you can spot the tower from here. I thought we would be further from Foxtrot. I wonder if Wanderlust shifted our position a bit. It sometimes does that when the terrain is uneven. Tree. I've seen this kind of tree before, but it looks slightly off. I wonder if the fire rain had anything to do with that. Well, now that you mention it, the weather feels much colder and humid. The trees must have been forced to adapt to the limited amount of water available. It makes a lot of sense. Life can do some weird things when it's trying to survive, like this, I suppose. Like us, I suppose. I think I feel like crying, but it isn't time for that, Miki said. Yuki felt a heavy sensation on his chest. There were so many people to simulate that it started to take a toll on his well-being. The body of the anchor acted as a magical battery that Wanderlust consumed to reproduce the events of the past. Nature and animals weren't a problem. People were a totally different story because of how complex they were. This is so much different. The forest around the academy was so not like this, Yuki said. What they were looking at was a window into the past. While they knew they could interact with things in the past, they were reset once the jump was done. However, this past could diverge from an actual historical event if they were noticed. While the simulation was faithful when considering conversations and the actions of people, things like written words and other major details were scrubbed and appeared obfuscated. Even the hair of people became blurry when moving because of the phenomenon. "It's your turn now," Yuki said. "It's getting a bit easier, but I still feel strange." Yuki looked around, wondering if anyone had noticed their presence already. Even if dying in a regression would just wake them up, it would still hurt as if they died for real. He certainly wasn't ready to have such an experience today. Mickey sat down on the ground and touched the grass. It was warm, but nothing compared to the soil that they were trying to heal. This would be much easier if I had my antennae. I would be able to reach further," she thought. "Do you think we should try right here? It's an open area with many people. What if they notice us?" Mickey asked. "We would be really unlucky if we were being watched this soon," Yuki said as if he looked around once more. Of course, always expecting the worst. They had strict rules about not interacting with anyone. The first rule was to not engage with people if there was no need, which Yuki thought existed to keep them from being hurt. Even though they were taught to do their jobs in detail, Yuki understood that not everything could be written in the textbooks. "Then let's get started," Mickey said before being interrupted. "Her hair is pink," said the boy as he pointed at Mickey. "Mom said you shouldn't point at people," said the girl that accompanied the boy. "Do you think this is, is that we? That could be we." Ooh. The boy ran towards the pair of Taramagi. This made Yuki start to feel uneasy. He approached Mickey and tried to touch her hair without permission. They both had black hair themselves. Black was one of the common hair colors among foxes, which made Mickey stand out from the crowd. "Oh, this is bad," Yuki said as he noticed the boy getting closer to Mickey. The boy started to play with Mickey's hair, pulling from it every now and then. "Kids, are you alone?" Mickey asked. The boy went from playing with the hair to chewing on it gently. "Our mom's at the market. She isn't far from here," said the girl. She tried to get her brother away from Mickey. "I see," said Mickey. She kept an eye on the boy, being particularly affected when she noticed the drool on her hair. They're adorable, but you in particular. You look like a fox that I know of. A fox that I grabbed the attention of, exactly because of my hair color," Mickey said as she smiled. Yuki noticed Mickey's smile, which made him blush right away. Mickey smiled even more the moment she noticed her partner's face. She was quite satisfied with the reaction. Mickey continued to touch the ground, searching for anything that would tell her where the best place would be to get the job done. The boy let go of Mickey after a moment and then got on his knees. He began to imitate Mickey. He had his eyes on Mickey, ready to copy whatever motion she was doing. "What are you doing?" asked the girl while she moved her plushie from side to side against her body. The soil sometimes needs some help. Protection. Even if you can't see it, it's a living being. We came here to help protect and restore it. Just like you do with your brother," Mickey said. "Oh, I see," said the girl. Mickey found an area that resonated in a particular manner, an overflowing amount of energy. "It's here," Mickey said. Mickey began to caress the ground with her fingertips. She found small pathways, little by little. Tiny sparks of blue light connected her skin to the ground every now and then. Her eyes changed color as soon as she was ready. The voices of the kids, along with any other noise surrounded Mickey, started to become incomprehensible. After a few seconds, her fingertips became saturated with these blue sparks. She took a deeper breath and realized her spell slowing. "Hola," Mickey murmured. The soil started to make a weird sound, similar to a distant splash of water. The space between the soil and Mickey's hands began to glow, as if something had appeared a few meters under the surface. After a few seconds, it disappeared. The only difference was that the soil under her feet felt fresher. Mickey opened her eyes once more. "Whoa!" the boy exclaimed. While he stared at the grass, he looked confused at what they had just witnessed. However, Mickey felt a different kind of emotion, confusion. The girl that was standing in front of her had acquired a strange property. Some of the magical pathways within the soil led directly to her feet. They went all the way inside her body. It was as if she was somehow tied to the spell that Mickey had just used. "What is Bulla?" the girl asked. "It's a spell. It helps me know about the condition of the soil. If I focus a little too much energy in that single spell, it can even heal it," Mickey explained to the girl, leaving out some details. Mickey was worried about what she had just felt. Even Yuki noticed that the girl was in a weird state, as if she was somehow foreign to the past that they were experiencing. Yuki thought for a moment that maybe a desync was taking place, even though everything else appeared unaffected. "Can you use it on me?" the boy asked. "I don't think it would work on people." Yuki laughed awkwardly. They all heard a scream that alerted everyone. "I told you not to talk to strangers!" The face of the siblings changed right away the moment the woman moved closer to them. "My orders were for you two to go home," said the woman. She grabbed the girl's arm in a violent manner. It was quite clear that she was drunk. The people around the village ignored the situation, pretending that they hadn't seen the woman mistreating the girl. The girl dropped her plushie as soon as her mother started pulling her arm. Boy hid behind Yuki with fear in his eyes. Yuki was ready to speak, but Mickey was the first to scold the woman. "Hey, be more careful. Is she your mother?" Mickey said as she stood up. Mickey had never been too subtle about this type of situation. She didn't want to fight, but the woman was being quite aggressive. "We grabbed their attention with our appearance. It wasn't their fault," Mickey said. The girl began to cry. Mickey noticed how the strange property within the girl's body started to fluctuate, becoming unstable. Mickey had never seen anything like this happen on people before, only plants and soil. The people watching the event were quite surprised by Mickey standing up for the kids. The drunk woman stared at Mickey before speaking. "Yes, they're my kids. Do you have a problem with that?" The woman snarled. "You're hurting her. You shouldn't treat her like that, no matter the situation," Mickey said. They noticed how people had started to gather and listen to what Mickey was saying. Some of the people peeking through the windows and others actually stepping out of their homes. Mickey didn't know for how much longer Yuki could hold the spell together. The more people that were aware of their presence, the harder it became for him. He showed signs of feeling extremely tired. "If you have a problem with what happened, don't retaliate against her," Mickey said. "Nobody is going to tell me how to raise my children. You're just a stupid girl that knows nothing," the woman said as she violently pulled her daughter by the arm. "I can do whatever I want with my children. They're my property," the woman yelled. She raised her arm, ready to hit the girl, who squirmed in fear, and tried to protect her face with her free arm. Yuki tried to intervene, but the moment he made a step forward, a sharp pain filled his chest. This was the first time he had felt something like that, stopping him in his tracks. A loud hit was heard. Mickey had used her body to block the woman's slap. "Stop!" Mickey took advantage of the situation and snatched the girl away from her. She stepped back with the girl behind her, keeping her away from the woman. Mickey was perplexed by how nobody in the community had stepped forward to help them and the kids. The surprise on the woman's face turned into anger in an instant. She bit her lip so hard that it almost bled. The woman took a step forward in the direction of Mickey, but her path was blocked before she could take another. A man from the village stepped between her and Mickey. "That's enough, we're tired of you," said the man. The woman looked at him in a deep hatred in her eyes. Several other people had joined the man. They were ready to help. The woman searched for her kids with desperate eyes, which weren't visible from her position because of how many people joined in to help them. The moment she noticed that she wouldn't get away with it, she pushed the man aside and started walking away. It was clear she didn't care that much about them to begin with. Mickey sighed deeply upon seeing the woman walking away. "I'm really sorry, really," Mickey said as she placed her hand on top of the girl's head. They were still quite shaken by the situation, but they slowly calmed down as soon as they saw their mother disappear. "Thank you. Can you help them? We can't stay here for much longer," Mickey said to the man who first stepped in to help. We'll see what we can do," said the man. He didn't seem quite sure about what would happen to them from now on if the woman really did abandon them. The man squatted next to the boy, who was still close to Yuki, and began talking to him. After the girl was done cleaning her tears, her eyes changed drastically. This surprised Yuki as he noticed the change right away. The girl grabbed Mickey's hands and gently squeezed them. After the commotion, the resonance that was within the girl had become less chaotic. "Bulla," said the girl. "Bulla?" Mickey asked. She looked over at her partner, quite confused. Yuki looked at Mickey, just as confused. "What about it? You heard what I said before, right?" Mickey said. "Bulla," she repeated. The tone of her voice was strange, as if she was a different person. "Use it on me," said the strange being. The boy, who was being talked to by the man, looked in the direction of his sister, puzzled about her tone of voice. Who are you?" Mickey asked, worried about the implications of what was happening. "Bulla doesn't work like that. We were never instructed to use it on people." "Yet you have to. It's the only way to heal this land," said the girl. Yuki started to show signs of extreme fatigue. Mickey could feel how the regression had started to fail. Things weren't flowing at a normal speedy rate, nor were the sounds in sync with what was happening. "It won't work. It doesn't work outside in my time. It won't work here." "You don't understand what you're saying," Mickey said. It felt as if the girl was talking for someone else or something. "You need to be with your sibling right now. He needs you," Mickey said. The girl kept staring at Mickey without changing her expression. "Your present is more important than my past. I promise you that everything will be fine," she said in a very serious tone, adorned with a genuine smile. Yuki Haru sat on the grass, trying his best to keep the regression going. He already was over his limit. The boy started walking towards where Mickey and the girl were. On his way, he picked up a plushie his sister dropped earlier. Mickey looked at the girl, not sure what to do. "I really hope it doesn't affect you, nor anyone around here. Promise me you'll be careful if something bad happens. Seek help at Foxtrot Tower," Mickey said out loud, hoping her brother heard as well. "That won't be necessary," said the girl as she closed her eyes. Mickey placed her hands near her head. She focused the best she could, just as she did with the soil a few moments prior. The blue sparks appeared between her fingers and her head. The glow filled the hair of the girl. Mickey opened her eyes just to find the girl smiling back at her. "Via?" asked the boy as he saw his sister being touched by the spell. Bulla reached its climax just a moment later, creating a flash of light in every direction that blinded Mickey and Yuki. Xiao's ears flickered as they reached the sound coming from the fireplace. She slowly opened her eyes. "Your niece and Yuki passed their test," Xiao said. She was lying on her personal chair over a small pillow. Vin was there with those back against one of Xiao's bookcases. It took a few moments for Vin to respond. "Are they okay?" Vin asked. Xiao remained silent for a few seconds. "That's what I'm wondering," Xiao said. "Why does it have to be this way? We promised," Xiao murmured with her eyes fixated on the flames. She closed her eyes a few moments later. The moment that Mickey opened her eyes, she noticed that they weren't in Foxtrot anymore. The scalding rock over which they started their jump had cooled down. She couldn't find any trace of the ashes around her. Wanderlust had blown away all of it. They both could feel the temperature had dropped drastically. The glowing magical circle it had increased in circumference to around 3 kilometers in diameter. They had successfully terraformed the area. Maldove stared at the pair from afar. They appeared to be the last group to finish their exam. "We're back," Mickey said. She was quite dizzy, making it hard to focus on the ground at her feet. "The rock looks normal. We did it after all," Mickey said with a smile. She hugged Yuki right away. How are you feeling? She asked. As soon as Mickey asked that, Yuki's body gave in. Ugh. He fell down on the rocky ground, dragging Mickey down with him. They both lied down on their backs, trying to catch their breath. A few small patches of moss had appeared on the ground and grass from within the crevices. For our first official job, I think we did perfectly, Yuki said. He stared at the sky and how the clouds over them had already changed color. It took a few minutes for the sky to clear. The sky is so clean. It's like back then. Be it the rush of adrenaline or how bad wanderlust tears the body, Mickey suddenly felt sick. She could feel her stomach turn. What is... Are you okay? Yuki asked. I am. I just need a second, Mickey said. She closed her eyes just in case. Yuki decided to remain silent. He was trying his best to recover from the experience as well. A chilling breeze began to blow throughout the valley. It moved quietly and made the rock underneath to feel even colder for a few moments. I feel better now, Mickey said. Yuki smiled and grabbed Mickey's hand. A short, cute giggle escaped Mickey's lips. Oh, it's adorable. We deserve some rest, or at least you. Thank you for holding on so well. Without how stable the jump was, we wouldn't have done it, Mickey said. What are you saying? It was both of us, said Yuki. Maldove opened her notebook and started to write on it, taking her time to document every tiny detail about the terrain. Her main and final observation was that the area Mickey and Yuki had terraformed was about 8 times larger than the rest of the teams. Fia, her name was Fia. Do you think she's okay? We have to investigate all of this, Mickey said. She squeezed Yuki's hand back, taking a deep breath right after. There wasn't much that Yuki could reply. Deep inside, he had a feeling that something wasn't right. 2 days and you have already gained my trust. I admit, though, I'm not surprised, Zhao said. She was checking the notes that Maldove wrote. Thank you. Everything turned out better than expected, Mickey said. She was quite curious that what Maldove could have written in about her performance. Yuki did the hardest part, to be honest, Mickey said. You're a team. You did it together, Zhao said. In the face of danger, you'll need to improvise a lot. Sometimes one of you would do the most hard work, but that's just situational, Maldove said before taking her hat off and placing it on Zhao's desk. The fox walked up to the hat and sat inside of it. A disapproving stare could be seen all over Maldove's face. Almost right away. Maldove, you're an expert here. As an actual veteran Terra Magus, what do you think? Xiao said. Maldove looked in Mickey and Yuki's direction. As you have said, it's teamwork. Mistakes have to be mended together as well as victories celebrated. Do not put the credit on a single person here, Maldove said with a soft expression on her face. Mickey smiled. Little by little, she felt more confident about her own performance. So we passed the exam? Thank you for the opportunity, Mickey said. Thank you, Yuki said, mostly towards Xiao, who had allowed them to stay together this far. Without getting out of the hat, Xiao kept talking. Now you are part of the Novice Terra Magus Brigade. Next step is to figure out where to send you. Vin usually takes care of that, but I don't want a biased opinion on the matter, since you're his niece. I'll leave it to Maldove to decide, Xiao said. Maldove stood silently for a moment thinking. I don't think sending them to a particular place would be a good decision. What about I give you a list of places with potential jobs and you decide for yourselves, Maldove said. I'd really like to visit a lot of places, Mickey said. She was quite surprised that the possibility to choose their travels was an option. Do we have to discuss this right now? I would like to have some time to talk about it with Yuki, if that's possible, Mickey said. If that's the case, then your decision will be evaluated by me and some other people. But even so, there's no rush. The work options depend on how many jobs there are in the area versus the amount of active Terra Magi, Xiao began to explain. For example, Foxtrot is a low priority city, mostly because the weather isn't that hostile. and our population density isn't that high. There are other cities where the terraformation jobs are dangerous, but the population is growing much faster than the Terra Magi are capable of treating the land, Xiao continued. Those cities are the biggest priorities for the government of Uzu. This forces the people to migrate to other cities, which usually helps with balancing out the population. Xiao kept a very serious tone while she explained. We will take all of that into consideration when choosing our next destination, Yuki said, with a firm voice. If you allowed me to suggest something, there are 2 places on the list of cities that require some attention in Olam, Cibeles and Mare. These 2 cities are also some of the most common destinations for novice Terramagus, Maldov said right away. Both of the city's commanders have asked for assistance. They requested experienced Wanderlust users. You're a rather new breed of Terramagus, so your skills are in much demand lately, Maldov said. Cibeles? I remember reading a lot about it during the academy years. We would have to travel very far, so they need Wanderlust users, Mickey said. Could we investigate a bit further before choosing? Even so, if they're asking for help, that makes them good options already. Zhao made herself comfortable inside the hat even more, flattening it with her paws. Take your time. Think of Foxtrot as a city you come to rest. A place where you can gather your thoughts and think better on what you want to do next, Xiao said. Yuki nodded. He was quite happy about being able to take the decision themselves for the most part. Maldov, that's everything. You may go, Xiao said. Maldov stood there in silence while staring at her boss. Her frown deepened. Come back for your hat later. I'll invite you for tea after my nap, Xiao said. Maldov took a deep breath and made a curtsy. She left the room a moment later, not before smiling at Mickey and Yuki as she walked past them. Mickey relaxed for a bit when she noticed Maldov leave in such a good mood. Xiao, I want to talk to you about something. About today's jump, Mickey said. She didn't know if she should wait, but a mix of worry and curiosity was getting the best of her. Go ahead, I'm listening, Xiao said. When we were in the old Foxtrot, we encountered 2 kids, foxes. They were interested in what we were doing, a girl and a boy. The girl was named Fia. I was wondering, could you search for any information about this person in Foxtrot's registry? Mickey asked. Xiao remained silent for a moment. You have to understand, most of the documentation is long gone, burned by the fire rain. However, I do not think that will be necessary, Xiao said, as she looked at the entrance of her office. Was it we? Someone entered the office a moment later. Maldov had exited. Hui was there with her back against the door. Hui, good evening, Mickey said. Mickey and Yuki were surprised to see her. Teacher, where is it? Hui asked. It's behind the music box over the fireplace, Xiao responded. Hui walked all the way over to the other side of the room and grabbed something that was resting where Xiao mentioned. After taking a look at it, she joined Xiao by the desk and placed the object next to her. It was a plushie. Hui had an unusual expression on her face which didn't change at all. It was a mixture of sadness and uneasiness. Xiao stepped off Maldov's hat and sat close to the bottom of her desk. Aruru is what we call them. You had never been introduced to the concept before because we would like to notice Terra Magi to encounter those events on their own, Xiao explained. They are rather new, so further research is required to confirm their existence. Mickey and Yuki recognized the plushie right away. It was the owl that Fia carried around. My great-grandfather had an Aruru for most of his life, since he was very young when he spoke about it. Everyone in the family was dismissed. It's an imaginary friend. However, I always had a hunch there was something strange about it. He was one of the few people that survived the fire rain, and he would tell me about all of his experiences. He died when I was still quite young, Hui explained. She stared at the plushie the entire time. They are related, but it was her grandfather, so her great aunt. What exactly is an aruru? Yuki asked. He seemed confused and frankly a bit scared to ask. Just like a deja vu or Jameis vu, an aruru is a disturbance in the fabric of time and space. It affects people's memories and perceptions of reality, or at least that's how it's described in the old world. Because of its implications, it also shapes our entire reality, Xiao explained. A person you thought you knew or something that you thought you owned. The person affected by the aruru is usually the person closest to these apparitions, or the owner of the object. But in general, they influence everyone that had contact with said person or object, Xiao continued. They can catch glimpses of their existence, be it specific recollections or concepts triggered by smells and sensations. In this case, the touch of this plushie. There's no evidence that they actually existed, yet people have strong feelings attached to these faint memories, Xiao explained. Before the fire rain, aruru had been reported all over this old town. They were quite common. Xiao investigated their significance, but they remained a mystery. Nobody questioned them much. Life continued, we said. Since the fire rain struck, there hasn't been a single report of an aruru ever again. The concept and definition of an aruru was particularly lost after the fire rain. It took Xiao a few decades to notice that aruru went missing. She initially concluded that the low population around the world was the culprit, but years went by and the concept similar to aruru never re-emerged, we explained. I understand the idea, but how is that possible? There has been none after the fire rain, not even one, Miki asked. Miki just started to have a weird sensation in her stomach as she quickly went through what had happened in their jump. So it's like the wanderlust, it's pretty common for it to be done on a person, I guess, in the past, and then it helps the future land, but then it, the person doesn't survive, so they're kind of just a faint memory. And that happens everywhere? Because then you wouldn't need it, right? You wouldn't need it in the current time because you're not trying to, you're not going back to right now because everything's already destroyed. You're going back to when things were great. I wonder. There's a short silence. Xiao didn't know how to confirm Mickey's suspicions without sounding too harsh. The aruru, they are caused by the people that travel using wanderlust. Isn't that right? Us? Mickey said with a worried expression. We and Xiao looked at each other for a moment as if they were trying to figure out how to explain the situation. This was clearly not the first time they had to tell someone the truth. Yes, you're correct. That's what we believe. Xiao's sure about it though, we said. Xiao stayed silent for a moment. Wanderlust only exists in theory in the old world. It came to fruition after the fire rain. The spell was developed after piecing together surviving scrolls from the old world and completing the research needed. Xiao began to explain. There was no need for such a spell to exist in the old world, so the Magi saw no rush in actually finishing it. As you may know, Wanderlust only has around 40 years since it was completed, so only in recent years have we seen an influx in cases like this. You are instructed to use Bulla to catch the overflowing non-harmful magical energy from the past into the present through this spell, but every now and then Wanderlust decides to latch on to people or objects with great magical potential that exists around the area. The little girl, yeah. I didn't think you two would encounter this so soon. It usually takes a few years of fieldwork for a Terra Magus to experience one. A lot of Wanderlust users never encounter them at all, but they become aware of the concept through other anti-Magi experiences. Can't always keep it a secret, Xiao finished. When my uncle touched this owl, he would whisper the name Fear. There was no sadness nor melancholy in his voice. He was just confused as to why he would remember such a name, we said. Her hand moved on top of the plushie. I thought they looked similar. Aww. Mickey slowly grabbed Yuki's hand. It took a considerable amount of willpower to speak. Fear was the name of the girl we encountered. She was the owner of the plushie. The great-grandfather Do you know if he had any siblings? Maybe they were separated, Mickey asked. No, according to him, he was an only child, we said. It appeared that she was trying her best not to cry, not because of fear, but because of her great-grandfather. Yuki looked over at Zhao with an angry expression. Is this how you do things? Let Terra make us do these kinds of things without telling them first? Yuki said out loud. He squeezed Mickey's hand out of reflex. If we knew this would happen, we would never have used Wanderlust even once, Yuki explained. Destiny is predetermined. There's nothing that can be done about what has already happened. Those Aruru are just in the past. Every person directly affected by them has already experienced its effects, Xiao explained. Nothing we do in the present is going to change what has already happened in the old world, Zhao said with a very serious tone. I mean, if you don't go back in time, though, it won't happen, right? But then again, if you don't know that it's going to happen in that spot, and you choose, I don't know. Butterfly effect can be cray-cray, is basically what I'm trying to say. Do you think it was my decision? Zhao asked. Ryuki remained with his mouth open, not sure how to respond. The Aruru, the Fire Rain, the research and the creation of Wanderlust, and how everything is connected in the end, Zhao continued. You have to understand it doesn't matter if you decide to stop doing this job. All the wounds that Wanderlust inflicted to the past have already been set in stone. If you don't do it, someone else will close the cycle, Zhao said in a calmer tone. The conversation had turned sour in a matter of minutes. Mickey sighed silently, trying to calm herself down. If our actions affect the environment, including people, I think it should be taught in our formative years, Mickey said. Mickey felt her body ache for a moment, right on the spot where the woman during the jump hit her. While it wasn't physical pain, the ghost sensation was hard to ignore. Is there something that we can do to undo our job? Mickey asked. Unfortunately, so far we believe that there is no way to revert the changes. Time only moves forward. Wanderlust is the only way to peek into the past. Pseudo-time travel, if you will. Your actions are erased upon return, since it's only a vision, unless you can cause an Aruru, which can only be triggered by Wanderlust interference. Keep in mind that this spell was created in a moment of weakness and desperation. Some areas are untreatable without it. There hasn't been a better terraforming method for areas that are excessively magically charged, Zhao explained. The Wall of Pyle, Revere, West Kyo. We have attempted to terraform those zones with conventional methods without success. There is no better candidate than Wanderlust to get these jobs done, Zhao explained. Mickey thought for a moment. If our actions affect the old world, could our present be affected by our future? Asked Mickey. Along with Yuki, she was deeply affected by the implications of what happened. Zhao stared at them. She knew she could lose them right now if she didn't choose her words carefully. I don't see why not. Only a few people can look into the future like we do with Wanderlust, but with very limited results. Even without such a spell, the fact that Aruru have not been documented in our time suggests that there have been no tragedies in our immediate future, and there haven't been any reasons to use Wanderlust or a spell with similar consequences, Xiao said. We probably healed our entire world, or we failed and gave up, or found a better method of terraformation. We don't know until then, Xiao finished. Mickey looked at Hui directly. I'm sorry about the situation with your great-grandfather. To think that we would be the ones to... We smiled for the first time since she entered the office. She grabbed the plushie and hugged it against her stomach. She looked like she could break into tears at any moment. Yuki wanted to ask a question to Hui, but upon seeing how affected she was, he hesitated almost immediately. Zhao took the opportunity to diffuse the situation. You're covered in ash. Go take a bath, Xiao said. If you stay for longer, it'll take Maldove all day to clean this place. We'll talk later about this, but I will leave you with something to think about. The effects of Wanderlust are no secret among Taramagi that have been trained with this technique. They all have this conversation eventually. We can only hope that what we do in the present brings joy to the people in the future. We can't keep our heads stuck in the past, Xiao said. I understand. Thank you for explaining all of this. If we do end up using it again, we'll try not to interact with people, Mickey said. That isn't up to the anti-Magus to decide. I bet you felt it, how Wanderlust made that kid its target. She was the reason you were transported to that particular period of time, Xiao said. Mickey and Yuki were mentally exhausted after the conversation. They wanted it to be over a few moments ago. I'm afraid I didn't learn much about fear, only that she really existed. That owl was hers, Mickey said. We placed the plushie back on the table. I'm really happy to hear that. It makes me wonder if my great-grandfather would have been happy to hear that as well. Or if that would have broken him, we said. Do we know what happened to these people or objects? Yuki said. Inconclusive. There have been so few cases of Ururu related to people so far that we don't have any idea. Not that we know where to start with that kind of research, Xiao said. If there are any new discoveries about it, please let us know. We would like to know exactly what happened to her, Mickey said. Xiao stared at Mickey intensely before responding. We will. Go rest, you have an important decision to make, Xiao said. Thank you. We hope to see you again, Hui, Mickey said. Mickey and Yuki bowed their heads slightly at both of them. We'll let you know once we have decided, Yuki said. While still holding the hands of Mickey and Yuki, they left Zhao's office. Once the pair of Taramagi left the office, Zhao and Ri remained in silence for a brief moment. I really hope... Do you think that... Zhao and Wei said, interrupting each other. Don't mind me, you tell me, Wei said in an uncomfortable expression. Zhao approached Wei and sat on the edge of the desk closest to her. I think both of us were talking about the same thing, Zhao said. Wei looked over the shoulder at Zhao. Is Mickey really the person you've been waiting for, Wei asked. Zhao remained silent for a moment, staring at the door. She jumped off the desk and walked towards her chair in front of the fireplace. Maybe, Zhao said. Wei followed Zhao with her eyes, not knowing how to respond. A moment later, she took the plushie resting on the desk once more. Wei stared at the plushie that was being held with both hands with an empty expression on her face. End of episode 1. Does that mean there's going to be more update? Periodically? Is that what you're saying? Mickey began to unlock their room when she heard something unusual from the other side. What is that? Mickey asked. They both scanned their room as they went inside. It didn't take long for them to find the tiny culprit. There was another bird along with other pigeons, an orange parakeet that was taking the hay out of the birdhouse, while the other two smaller birds watched. Whoa, what are you doing? Mickey screamed. She got close to the birdhouse and grabbed the parakeet that began to squirm between her hands. I think that bird is tired of waiting for us, Yuki pointed out. Wait, isn't that Ika's parakeet? What was his name again? Oh, you're right, it's Galado, said Mickey as she looked down at the bird. He has such a bad temper, just like his owner, said Yuki. He sat on the bed and crossed his arms, looking at the hay that the bird had scattered on the floor around the birdhouse. It quickly dawned on Mickey that she had forgotten to send a letter to Ika the night before. Oh, I forgot to send a letter to Ika. I told her I'd message her every night, said Mickey. She sighed and placed the bird on the birdhouse platform. That promise was broken really fast, said Yuki, with a smirk on his face. He noticed the small delivery tube lying on the bed right next to him. He did bring a letter with him, Yuki said before he grabbed the tube and removed the lid. Oh, she's so fast. I really hope she doesn't think we got lost on our way here, or something like that, said Mickey. She sat on the bed right next to Yuki. The parakeet flew to where Mickey was and landed on her thigh, while the other two birds remained inside the birdhouse. Judging by her handwriting, this wasn't her first attempt. It's so messy, Yuki said. He began reading it out loud. Mickey, something's happened. A few hours ago, a group of magi arrived at the academy, and the place went into full lockdown soon after. We can't even get out to other platforms. They put a jinx on the doors and windows. It hurts you if you try to open them. It's too strong to dispel. It must be the work of an expert magi. It happened a bit before sunset. I heard rumors that Mr. Knave was getting arrested, but why would they do that? I'm so confused and frankly a bit scared. I discovered a secret way of sending Galeto out of the academy there. I don't know if I can trust anyone right now. That's why I'm sending this to you. Please go tell anyone about this. Everyone seems to be freaking out right now, but it's so quiet at the same time. It's as if time had frozen inside of the academy. Send a letter with Galeto right away. I just want to know that you're safe. Don't forget to feed him before sending him back, or he'll get distracted. Hope everything went okay in Foxtrot. I already miss you. Ika. By the way, these cookies are delicious. I'm not quite sure what I just read, said Yuki while turning the letter around, checking to see if there's anything else written on it. What? We should tell her mother about this. No, Zhao, Ika. Why did you send this to me and not the other authorities? This doesn't sound good at all, Mickey said while squeezing Galeto a bit between her hands. At least the cookies were good, she joked, trying to calm herself down. Yuki folded the letter slowly and remained silent for a brief moment. Let's write that letter. This probably can wait, he said. Mickey nodded once. Her eyes were open wide, revealing how deep in thought the girl was. Oh, the end? More! That told me nothing. It sounds like they're gonna keep making more periodically. I don't expect it to be right away because a lot of effort did go into both making the story and the illustrations. I feel like the illustrations itself might take a little while. So I don't expect an update or like a second episode, as they phrased it, to be soon, but I do look forward to when they do make it. If you're interested in playing this, it is on Steam right now, free. I'd also just suggest, if you have Twitter, to follow them so that you can also find out if or when they possibly may release another part. I know I'm already following them over there. But yeah, that's the end for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. That was a little crazy little cliffhanger ending. So I definitely do suspect that they might add a little bit more. When it does come out, I will be playing it again. Don't you worry. So make sure you check a like and a subscribe down below if you want to see when that happens. But in the meantime, I'll be doing some more first time playthroughs of various games. So again, make sure you subscribe down below if you want to see that. Until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!